In the 3 months, I'd lost half my body weight. I was below 50 kilos, and this nurse put me back in bed. She goes, "Mr. Wilson, you're in a helicopter crash."
Welcome to the podcast where we track down Australian war veterans, have a chat with them, and hear their stories. I'm Alex Lloyd, and this is Life on the Line.
The only thing I was scared of was failing, with letting down the people there that I was supposed to support.
Things went south really bad.
You've got to have an element of crazy to be good at what we do.
There was an ego attached to being a gunfighter.
Being around big tall trees, thick shrubbery, potentially connects him to other moments in his life during battle.
It's not easy.
Walking in minefield, not knowing when your legs were going to get blown off.
You know, we're a part of the
The
society.
story of transformation is powerful.
Gary Wilson is a veteran of the 2nd Commando Regiment. Gary survived a catastrophic helicopter crash in Afghanistan on 21 June 2010. 3 Australians lost their lives in this crash: Ben Chuck, Tim Aplin and Scott Palmer, as well as a US serviceman. Gary was severely injured, including a traumatic brain injury. In this conversation with Thomas Kaye, Gary shares his story of military service, the Black Hawk crash, and his recovery afterwards.
I'm Thomas Kaye, speaking today with Gary Wilson. Gary, welcome to Life on the Line.
Thanks for having me, Thomas.
Gary, tell us about your upbringing to start us off.
So I was born in Cobham, Victoria, and then my parents split up and then we moved. So I went to Werribee, then from Werribee moved up to Bundaberg. So then I've been from sunny Queensland, then I dropped out of high school and joined the army from there. So yeah, a bit of bouncing around.
Was there anything that inspired you to join the army?
Not that I can think of. I didn't know of anyone directly in my line of family that was in the army. Just wanted to do as I grew up. And as soon as I was old enough, I joined the Army Cadets and dropped out of high school and joined the Army Reserve before I was old enough to then leave town. So it's always just something I knew that I wanted to do. So to serve my country and kind of help to get out of Bundaberg because there wasn't much options for me there. So get out of town as quick as I could.
And so it was around 1998 that you joined the Army Reserve. From that time, it didn't take you too long to actually go full-time service in the Army.
Because Mum had to sign me up to the Army Reserve because I was a minor technically. So I put all my time focusing on the Army Reserve time, trying to be a soldier, let my schoolwork take a back seat. And then I got put into the Vice Principal's office one year, early 98. So I was in year 12 and the Vice Principal said, why are you here? You're failing. So I said, up yours, I'm going to the Army. And then put my application to go full-time and I was accepted by October 99 to then go join 3RAR.
So jumping forward then to 2000, you were deployed to Timor. What can you tell us about that?
That was a massive eye-opener. So I've been in the Army for a couple of months. I've done my Army Reserve IOTs and basic training there. Then all of a sudden I'm deployed with an infantry battalion in an Asian country. It's quite an interesting experience. Eyes open the whole time, learn just constantly information overload of learning the lingo and what to do and what not to do and who not to piss off. And yeah, then when that time was up, we came back to Australia and get ready to go again.
What was the learning curve like going from that? Was it much of a realization from doing all the training and it just being something that you're doing on home soil and then all of a sudden you're out in the field and you're actually testing your skills?
Yeah. When I was in Army Reserve, we were one platoon in Bundaberg, which is a very small amount of guys just in one area. Then all of a sudden I'm in a battalion of 900 guys, in the middle of nowhere, in the bush going. You realise how much of a small fish you are in the grand scheme of things.
From what you knew to actually being out there, was there a learning curve from it's it's not just sort of you do these little bits and pieces. Was there lots that you had to learn while you're already out there?
Everyone knows all the basic routines and the morning routines and stuff. When you're overseas, how important that stuff is. Because when you're in training, you go, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Then when you're actually on operations, you go, this is a massive deal. You must focus on all of those little 1%ers every day. So
what was your role over there?
Just a rifleman. I was the last man alone there. It was a very small section. I was one of the guys in my section. So my predecessor, he apparently wasn't taking his doxycycline and then came down with malaria and pneumonia, I think, and then had to be casevaced. So I was his replacement. So then I joined the section. They're like, who's this new guy? That's how I fit into the puzzle. Then it's a very, very small piece of the back end of my platoon. I know during my section, we were in the Akusi Enclave, which is like right in the middle of West Timor, completely surrounded by Indonesia, like on 3 sides. It's an amazingly beautiful country. Like, it's just so scenic and picturesque. But then you have to walk up and down those bloody hills, and they're quite steep and rugged. And the afternoon rain gets quite slippery.
Jumping forward a bit then to 9/11, it's a placeholder in everyone's mind. What can you tell us of your memory of 9/11?
I had a friend sharing my house with me, and I woke up and he's like, "Gary, quick, come in here. We're going to war." I was like, "What the fuck's going on here?" I ran into his room, and on the TV was the second plane flying into Tower 2. Right, let's quick shave and quick off to work and start packing our gear and get ready to deploy wherever we're going, because we decided that was an act of war right there and there. So we're like, wherever we're going, obviously we're going to be called to come to defend and protect the United States, because like we're partners in crime for everything. So
you knew pretty much instantly, like both of you, as soon as that happened, pack the bags.
Yep.
We're off.
We got to our battalions, so got to 3 hours out together and into our platoons, and everyone's already on the balcony, start packing their gear for DP1 inspections and the inevitable deployment that was coming our way.
So then in 2002, you find yourself back in Timor. How was this different to your first time there?
Everyone's kind of expecting to be quite mundane, because they're like, there's nothing happening. So everyone's like, oh, it's going to be a pretty boring rotation. And I bought one of those Lonely Planet guidebooks, and with our platoon's interpreter, I sat down with him every day and was practicing learning sentences. By the end of our tour, I was then used as our section's interpreter, because I'd learned how much of the language, and I had a knack for learning languages. And he was replaced, and I was his replacement. Every patrol I was there to go and speak with the locals, and so I spent the whole time there was just learning another language, because I had the knack for learning languages, it would appear.
Where'd you get the idea to get that Lonely Planet guide to sort of give you that sort of promotion to be the interpreter down the track?
The ADF provided like very small like country guidebooks, and we had to learn 2 phrases: was stop, hands up, stop or shoot it to challenge. Well, let's see how this goes and see if I could learn any more of the language, because I'm going to be bored for a little while. When we came back from our rotation in 2002, I was then given a reward course, a 3-month like training course of language training down this Defence Force School of Languages in Melbourne, to learn Tatum officially for 3 months, because I did so well with my learning the skills. So I thought they could use it again if we were to go back to Timor again in a couple of years' time. And so then after I smashed the course, the Tatum course in the School of Languages, I go back to 3RM and actually background infantry battalions. In peacetime was just nothing but training and pack marching and a little bit more pack marching. And my shins decided they weren't playing the game. So I had to have surgery for compartment syndrome. So then after the surgery, I was facing 12 months of rehab. After 12 months of rehab, so I requested to go back down to the School of Languages and learn another language for 12 months. So I could do training down there rather than wasting my time. The Portuguese course was taken. So then they said, okay, how about you do Indonesian neighbour? It's our biggest neighbour to the north. So I did Indonesian, and then halfway through the course, the guys from EW Trade, they said, how about you come work with us if you don't want to go back to being a grunt. So I put the application in. Halfway through the year, that was approved. So they didn't actually go back to 3R at the end of it. So then School of Language was then to the School of Signals in Melbourne, the other side of Melbourne.
Well, was there anything that sort of appealed to be a signaller, or is just kind of something different?
It was something different. Like, so I was asking the band, I said, what do you guys do even? They said, we can't tell you. We'll have to kill you. I said, oh, come on, what do you guys do? You have to pass your top secret clearance. Know your personality, you'll love it. If you're feeling really well, because like cheekiness.
That's what got you the role.
Essentially, so I wasn't the best digger. Like, so I goes to SIG, and they said, there's not that much walking when you're in SIGs. Fucking liars. When I got posted to 2 Commando finally, so we did was walk, and a lot of foot infiltrations and exfiltrations. So.
Oh, well, I guess you'd had your new shins ready, so good putting them to the test.
It did indeed.
What can you tell us about the time that you met your wife, Renee?
This is a point of contention. A few of the guys I work with, and we decided to go to a pub and just talk some shit, and as like to have a guy's night. And she was there with some of her work friends, because she was down in Canberra for the summer clerkship thing. As a graduate from uni, sitting next to us in the beer garden, and then one of her friends commented on our tattoos and things, and then a whole heated argument about tattoos and about where she was from, because I said, and she's from the Gold Coast. I said, the Gold Coast is shit house. And she said, beg your pardon? I said, well, because last time I was up there in the Gold Coast, because I have a sleeve tattoo on my arm, I was kicked out of a few pubs because they thought I was a bikie. And she said, well, you're a dickhead for getting tattoos. So, and then we're talking, and she told me to fuck off, and yeah. Then I was like, no, I'm not done with this argument. I want to keep arguing with this girl because she's pretty cute. And then, sure enough, went back out and found her in the beer garden. We chatted all night. Then, yeah, she's been stuck with me ever since.
Since you've been together, have you got any more tattoos?
Yes, I have actually. Back of my tricep, I have like a big devil. And her, Lady Nuna, why do you have the devil? Why do you not have Jesus? I have the Virgin Mary on the back of my other arm now as a tribute for her. They got me in the good books with her, so.
That's good. So then when did you actually end up marrying your wife?
I meant to get married in October 2010, but unfortunately I was still in hospital, so we had to get postponed until the date she always forgets, the 2nd of March 2011. So we had to postpone it for a little while.
Jumping back to the military career, in 2005 you joined the SIGs and then you're later attached to the Commandos as a signaller. How is that training with the Commandos compared to all of the training that came beforehand?
Child's play in comparison. I was then to DSD for a little while, then from DSD then to Commando. When I was in Canberra at DSD, because I was doing shift work in an office-based environment, my health wasn't really the key focal point. So I was getting quite round and pudgy and slow. So then I got to Commando. One of the PGIs, his goal was either every day was either make someone spew or someone cry. So that's how hard he used to smash us. So I had to work really hard with the fitness as well as professionally as well too. Make sure I was worthy of staying in the unit because they say in the unit every day is a daily renewable contract. You have to earn your worth every day you're there. So prove that you're worthy of staying in the regiment.
Was it one-on-one training or was it you training with everyone in the gym, like in groups?
For us, it was the whole squadron, the C squadron, getting smashed. And we were a bunch of pogues. They just decided to smash us harder maybe. I don't know. But or the fact that they knew that we were not as fit as the shooters, so they made us work harder to prove our worth to stay in the regiment as the attaching forces.
When you joined, was it still the 4 RAR or had they already been renamed?
When I first marched in, there was still the 4th Battalion of the Royal Australian Regiment, in brackets Commando, but then 2009 changed to the 2nd Commando Regiment under Colonel Paul Kenny.
So I guess after all of the training and probably getting in the best physical shape as you possibly have been before, maybe, how did you find out, or when did you find out as well, that you were then about to be deployed to Afghanistan?
When we got there in 2009, I started getting into training. I was penciled in for being on the next deployment for 2010, provided I do a few other EW equipment courses and had to do another course in America, and then the MRE, then had to pass my CAFT, so the Commando Fitness Test. If you pass the CAFT, if you fail the CAFT, they'll take off the roster to go overseas. So I had to prove my fitness there, and then that I was fit enough to go on deployment with the regiment.
So I guess everyone would find that motivation then to just push as hard as they possibly can to get there, to get on that list.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing with the BFAs and like fitness tests in the Army. You generally don't try to push yourself as hard as you can. You just try and beat that guy in front of you. So then when you get there, you can rubbish him, saying, I ran faster than you. Just
make sure that there's someone between you and the rear line.
It's always just who can rubbish who. Like, that's how we roll.
How did it feel when you got that news that you were going to be deployed to Afghanistan?
You don't really believe it until you're actually on the ground, like in Afghanistan, because there's so many different moving parts can get stopped and impact you or just take off the trip, and trips could be cancelled. So it's one of those things. You just, like I said, I wouldn't actually believe it until I was actually on the ground. And then we got off the plane in Afghanistan. I was like, cool, let's go home.
So in 2010, you're then deployed to Afghanistan as a signaller for November Platoon. Before we get to the incident with the Black Hawk, what are some of the takeaway memories or things that stand out from the trip?
Our first patrol, that was a massive eye-opening experience as well. We were moving through a valley, and one of the lead bushmasters from the other platoon had a flat tyre, so they've pulled up, we've all dismounted so they could change the tyre for the bushmaster. And the tyres on the bushmasters are massive and they're heavy, and like a lot of the hard work to change the tyre on those things. So they've gone around the rigmarole of changing the tyre. The new wheel's on, the old wheel is back up on the side of the vehicle. We've remounted, and the bushmaster then rolled forward barely a metre or two and hit an IED and blew the exact wheel that they just changed off of the truck. So we go, okay, well, everyone's dismounted. Then we got followed up by a small arms engagement. A few rifles, a few of the Taliban had climbed up in the hills around us and started shooting at us. Everyone then had to scatter up the hills and engage and to defend our instant harbour. I got the call to dismount my gear and run up the hill and help provide some overwatch up there with some of the snipers. First time outside the wire in Afghanistan to get shot at. It's like, what's going on here? And I asked my boss, do you still want me to go up this hill? And the boss goes, just fucking keep moving. So there's me and my interpreter running up this hill. And because I couldn't focus on anything else, all I could hear was my heart just beating in my ears, just pounding away. I got to the top of the hill, and the other guys from the section are already up there waiting for me to get there. They go, shit, man, did you hear that? I'm like, hear what? They said, a 107 just went over our heads. There's a 107mm rocket went pushing past us. So, yeah, right, like that could have been like first trip, first engagement, my last engagement. So it gets the adrenaline going. The other funny part of that was the JTACs, the guys who call in the fast air and the aerial support. My mate, who was our JTAC for our platoon, he had a good eyes on the target, so he goes, I'll call the JDM in for the Bushmaster whole boss. And his boss, because his boss's first JDM call as well, he goes, no, I'll take it. So, like, on the comms, listening to 3 JTACs arguing over who got to call in the fast air for the destruction of the Bushmaster. It's like you hear him, like, how, like, his thunder got stolen out from under him. So
very much a trial by fire.
Yeah, there's a whole paper, scissors rank.
Oh, there's got to be, you know. It's not every day you get to do that.
No, it was pretty cool. So then we had another job. I left a lot of my cold weather kit behind, so I could carry some cold weather kit for my interpreter. So because obviously his cover and safety is kind of paramount for me, because I need him to focus on his job as being at the best of his ability. So like that afternoon it rained, and then that night it got pretty cold and chilly. We woke up in the morning and all the hill around us was covered in snow. And all I had was my cams, my pants, and I think it was just a rain jacket on. And I was freezing my ass off. Then as I'm waiting to be extracted, like the next morning, you can see the Black Horse coming up. We can also see a storm rolling through the valley towards us. We finally got the Black Horse, finally got in. We got on board these Black Hawks. As we're extracting, we peeled off from the hill and then down into the valley and to do what they could to get going. Like the wind just hit us really bad. And the Black Hawk that I was in, as we were screaming down this valley, the wind pushed us and spun the whole aircraft 90 degrees to the left and flipped us back around. Like the whole aircraft was getting bounced around. And I was shitting myself because I was like, this thing's we're going to be like, our Black Hawk is going to crash. And one of the snipers that I was working with, he goes, oh no, we got back to Tarancot. And I was like, that's it, I'm done. I don't want to do any more Black Hawk stuff again.
I think that would turn anyone's stomach being in that.
And he goes, no, it's okay. The Black Hawk pilots go through this kind of training. They're ready for this, that they can fly through anything. He's also training himself back at home to become a helicopter pilot. So he was saying to me how much they go through the training to handle that kind of like poor weather conditions. Okay, it's okay to fly in Black Hawks again. We'll be safe. And the guy that talked me back into going back in Black Hawks and keeping with the mission was Ben Chuck.
That's a real tragic irony, as Ben Chuck is one of the 3 Aussie commandos killed in that helicopter crash where you're severely injured. But before we get to that crash, I understand you're also involved in a rather famous and pretty significant battle.
So in the Battle of Shwali Kot, then there was our last mission that we were just in. So it was stupid hot, like 54 degrees. Like it was sitting in the sun, getting shot at with like rifles and rockets and all that good stuff. And because I was smoking, I'd swim a lot of the ground. And then working away, and then pop at my feet. Like this like pop of dirt just kicked up. Like I thought, what the hell was that? And my sergeant goes, contact! And also everyone's had to hit the deck. I've been shot at. And nothing else happened. Like I just ran like to be shot at just once, and like really close shot, one shot. Normally they fire a few rounds, and it's all calmed down. God, I could go for another smoke. Where's my lighter gone? And then my lighter actually had exploded in the heat, and my sergeant called contact for the lighter being blown up. So the rest of the platoon that were down in the greenbelt resting, they called us on the radios and said, "Are you guys still in contact?" And my sergeant goes, no, Zulu's lighter exploded. And in the ruckus of all the battle and all the gunshots and stuff, you'd hear the guys in the greenbelt below us, down below us, laughing. So, yeah, the fun things to laugh at. So, like we come back from being in contact for a day or a couple of days and stuff. The first thing we do, we get back into the barracks was shower, then play Call of Duty against each other on their work games. Like, Renee's like, couldn't you guys get enough of that stuff? But it was our way of venting and just unwinding, so...
Many lives changed forever on June 21st, 2010. You're in a Black Hawk helicopter. It's 3:39 a.m, pitch black. You're on board one of the 4 helicopters going fast and low, moments away from reaching a target. Then things go catastrophically wrong. The helicopter hits the ground near a dried creek bed and rolls, causing significant damage. 3 other 2nd Commando Regiment soldiers were killed, as well as an American soldier. 7 Australians, including yourself, were wounded to various degrees. What are your last memories before the crash?
Last memories before the crash was from the day before. My interpreter, Shawali, had returned to the US to see his family for his return to country for his leave because they run on a different roster to us in Afghanistan. Shawali came back on task. So I was through the whole day getting his gear reissued and briefing him about the mission and that was going to be going on that night. A lot of running around the whole day. Then finally got some meals from memory, grabbed my equipment. So Renee and I had a deal before I deployed. Every time I went outside the wire, I'll call home and say I loved her. And just have that last conversation should the worst ever happen. There was one job about midway through the tour, I forgot to call. God, I was in the shit. When I finally got back in contact, I said, I'm sorry, I'll never do that again. I promise I'll never not call you again before a mission. I ran past the phone in the hallway. I thought, no, it's going to be a quick mission. I'll call it when I get back. That was my last memory for that day. I woke up 3 months later on. But what I've been told from stories from the guys on the ground and from the official report was that, as he said, at 3:39 we're lowering to prepare to land, completely pitch black darkness. Like even our night vision gear was completely useless. Staff Sergeant Brandon Silk was the loadmaster who was killed. His last words were on record. He asked the pilot, he said, "How low are you taking this thing, boss?" Because he could see the ground. The next response was the sound of the Black Hawk smashing into the ground at stupid fast. It was over 100 knots. Then as the Black Hawk crumbled and tumbled to its resting place, most of the guys were flying out along the way. Staff Sergeant Silk had been killed. Trevor Bocom, the pilot, had suffered a massive spinal fracture, and myself. When the other 2 Black Hawks had circled around to land and provide Kazakh, 4th chopper remained airborne to provide overhead security for us. As the guys rushed towards us on the ground, the medic found me by the wreckage trying to crawl away. My body must have known that I was safe and secure, and then collapsed. I started to collapse into my coma and started convulsing, and the medic had to then, because I started to stop breathing, he had to intubate me so I could breathe and give me anticonvulsion medication. And because of the convulsions, my jaw had seized shut. And luckily for me that I smashed my face in and snapped the tooth in half. So apparently he used the gap in the tooth in my face to force the tube down my throat through the gap. Otherwise he had to perform an emergency tracheotomy in the desert in pitch black darkness, which wouldn't have been pretty. Before we deployed, we had to buy our multicam uniforms because there's a whole company made a blanket call that everyone had to buy multicam uniforms that we all matched when we deployed outside the wire. They cost us, because I wasn't a qualified commander, I was on a lower pay grade than everyone else because as a base soldier, and all the gear cost us $400. I was bitching about most of the tour to the rest of the guys in our room that like how much they cost us and everything. Our JTAC, who was also a roommate, he took great pride in cutting them off of me. And he's like, "Oh, Gary's gonna hate this," and he's like, as he's chopping them away. So for this, he owed me $400. So then as I was getting onto the chopper, and I was still convulsing, even after anticonvulsion medication, I was still in a really bad way. Then actually punched me in the leg to tell me not, as his way of saying, don't give up. I think I was on the 2nd emergency chopper. Like there was ferrying guys back and forth to Kandahar. And yeah, it was then in Kandahar, they were massive trying to stabilise all of us. So then we could be then secured enough to then transport back to Germany to the Landstuhl medical facility. And then from there it was then to Westmead Hospital, where I remained in the coma, but I was starting to wake up slowly, but I have no memory of this, to the Mount Wilga Rehabilitation Hospital in Hornsby in Sydney, where I actually had my first memory. So a very long time of having zero memory.
What was it like when that gap was filled in, that 3-month gap that you have no memory of, no recollection of, from leaving to go on a mission that you thought would be over before you know it, call Renee after you got back, to then waking up in the hospital and having your first memory in Hornsby? Was it unbelievable or?
It was kind of unbelievable because I still didn't quite understand what had happened, because I know my first memory was I woke up, I was kind of awake and I was in a chair, I was tied to a chair, I was restrained, and there were people moving behind me. I couldn't work out what they were saying. I was like, the hell am I still in Afghanistan? I had no idea where I was. I'm in a dark room tied to a chair. Like, this doesn't make sense. Have I been captured? If so, how? And I was like, I'm going home. I'm going on my feet. I'm going feet first. I'm getting out of here. I'm going home. So I undid what I could and In my mind, I was 100% like fit and able body. So I got up to run and my foot didn't work. So I stumbled as I fell forward. I went to catch myself with both my hands at like a push-up. But my left arm was like tied to my fellow. I was fused to my chest. So I smashed my face into the ground as I fell and took a lump of like a chunk of my tongue off and blood in my mouth. I was like, this isn't right. So then I went to curse and swear as you normally would. But I couldn't even say a word. I was like, groan. I was like, this isn't right. One of the people behind me came around and picked me up and put me back into the bed. I was like, what's going on here? It was one female nurse, without being sexist. This heck one girl picked me up and put me back into bed because I was, in my mind, I was 80 plus kilos. In the 3 months, I'd lost half my body weight. I was below 50 kilos, and this nurse put me back in bed. She goes, Mr. Wilson, you're in a helicopter crash, but you're home and you're safe now. It's been a very long process of understanding, like putting all the puzzle pieces back together. So it's been a journey.
It's one way to describe it.
Pretty bad way to wake up, like thinking you've been captured, then realizing you're in, and apparently I was in the chair because they called them tremors as you're trying to wake up from a coma. As my body was trying to relearn how to use itself again, and the brain trying to reconnect to all the muscles and learn them. I pulled the catheter out and I think like, I've done that before. I just wrecked the bed. I broke the bed apart. And
hey, did you say you've done that before?
Apparently I did it in one of the tremors in Westmead. I think so I'd done broken beds and like I used to pull the tubes out and they had my hand bandaged up and like apparently I was handcuffed to the bed at one stage because they had my hand that was all burnt and broken, bandaged up, and I pulled all the bandage off and handed it with my good hand. I just pulled it apart and handed it to them, so they had to tie both my hands down. And
that explains their restraints.
Yeah, so like I was kind of in the agitation phase of the waking up. They're like, no, this guy is like needs to be restrained because I just wanted to get out of there and go home. So
once all of the confusion cleared and you realized what was going on around you and where you were, what was your exact extent of your injuries?
It's a long list. So basically, almost all of my foot was crushed. So my midfoot to my ankle was just crushed. I broke my left knee, my left hip, a couple of left ribs. I stabbed my ulnar in my wrist, broken knuckles and fingers. They call it a boxer's fracture. My nose, my upper jaw, and my teeth got broken in half. Plus the brain injuries was the bifrontal lobe bruising. And a diffuse axonal injury, which is like shaken baby syndrome. And the brain being tossed around the inside of bounced around the inside of my skull.
Can you tell us about the role that Renee played in supporting you during the recovery process and what followed in the coming months?
From day one, as soon as she knew that I had like a head injury, she understood, like she learned and read the book, The Brain That Changes Itself, and learned about neuro rehab and all that stuff. Like in my room, like in the hospital, she would like made a rule that no one was allowed to be upset or cry in my presence. If they're going to be upset, they have to go outside. Like she'd be always protecting me. So she'd been protecting me since she saw me in Germany. So that, and she's been a key driver for me to get better because if I'm bad mood, she goes, just go to the gym, or how amazing she's been through everything for me. So as well as for the other families in the space. So for the other families who were affected by this crash.
It's now been over 10 years since the accident. Can you tell us what your biggest challenge was? Was it more of a physical or psychological trauma that held you back?
Well, initially it was a bit of both. It was psychological, was me trying to accept the fact that my career was over. I didn't know what I was going to do and having to leave the army. But the former chief of the army had said like that I always have a job in the army and then I wouldn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And physically, there's the part of it was trying to relearn how to use all the muscles again and actually walk, and my midfoot through to my ankle was annihilated. Renee described it mincemeat in a sock. The surgeon who reconstructed my foot, he came and saw me when I was in one of the hospitals and said, I'm sorry, mate, I did the best I could to reconstruct your foot, but I don't think you'll ever run again. So the next year, we tried to run the Sydney City to Surf. We did the Sydney City to Surf in 2 hours and 52 minutes. In the army, I'm always on trying to improve and keep getting better. So the next year we did it in 2 hours and 2 minutes. Well, that's pretty impressive. So then the year after that, we then did the Blackmore's Bridge Run, which is 9 Ks over the Harbour Bridge and around Sydney CBD. It's 9 Ks, and that was in an hour and 2 minutes officially. But I think by the time I got to the sideline, the finish line was about 59 minutes. So I was pretty happy with that. But then as things progressed, the arthritis kind of came to play in the foot and the bones. I have pretty pronounced post-traumatic arthritis, he called it. So the arthritis, the big pain, then have muscular contractions from, they call it muscular spasticity, where the muscles are constantly kind of trying to contract down my left side, like through my foot and through my hamstring and my arm and my hand. But I spoke with a friend of mine a little while ago who's a double amputee. I asked him how he goes with phantom pain, and he said he uses a mindfulness and meditation practice where he tells his body and his brain that the feet aren't there anymore, so there's no pain in the feet. So I then use that. I tell myself to relax the muscles, that there is no pain, because I'm not actually like in physical pain. So through that process of mental focusing, I can actually relax the muscles and take the pain. The pain goes away. In the last week since the anniversary of the crash, like it's generally around June each year, the pain tends to flare up because I'm more reminiscent of why I have this pain initially. So then when I focus on the pain then increases and accentuates because of the more you focus on it, the more it reaches its head essentially. By learning how to not pay attention to it or to pay attention and tell my body to relax the muscles, the pain essentially goes away.
I guess the recovery process it's a long road, and definitely any injuries to the brain are traumatic and long lasting. How has the injury to your brain affected your day-to-day life?
With the brain injury, I have trouble multitasking and get sidetracked. Like yesterday, taking the rubbish out of the bin, I came back in and then saw something else that I needed to be doing. I did that, then did something else, and just like I need to try and actually focus on one task and finish that one task, and then going to the next task. That plus obviously my speech is still a massive hurdle for me. I can't really think much else.
You've now got a career as a personal trainer. So you're a performance coach and a mentor, PT and nutritional qualifications, helping people to be a better version of themselves, to perform better, to play better, to have a healthier life. What steered you in that direction?
By knowing training actually helps your body and your brain feel better through exercise. I then found, because I was posted down here officially to add first part of the PT cell there. So I wanted to become exercise physiologist through university, through part of the upcoming medical class J43, which is extended transition. I thought I could go to university and become an exercise physiologist. I can help other guys who have been wounded and injured in service, help them recover and move forward with their lives. I then realised that university was going to be too hard for me, and I wasn't really cut out for university and that kind of study. I then found coaching. I thought, actually, I can do coaching, I can do PT, so if I can become a PT. So then I've been through TAFE and become a qualified PT, and then started with bear coaching because obviously back in 2010, my life was stripped bare. I've had to do everything all over again, from even breathing for myself again to walking and learning to be upright. Walking, talking, the whole gamut from go to woe, to help show people so they can learn that with a good diet, good exercise, and back to the basic movement patterns, with a good basis, things can be moved forward and built stronger from then on.
Is it outdoor boot camp style personal training?
I can do outdoor boot camp training. I can do in the gym. I can do like online coaching and give advice, and I can do dietary advice online, and then also with the coaching, with the help them with their mindset, because you say that, but I refuse to accept my condition. I'm like, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get back and do this, and this, because I hate being stuck at home. I hate not being able to do anything. So I want to help others keep moving forward with their lives as well.
Is that something that you put into your routines to help other people then as well better their lives through your personal training? You also get them to increase their own mindfulness.
Yes, yep. That's the plan. So we can work and change your mindset and help you move forward with your life and make everything, improve it, not make it better, but improve everything.
It's not just personal training and the nutritional qualifications you've done and helping people shape their lives, but in 2014, you also had a stint in acting.
Technically and officially, I was a professional actor.
What can you tell us about that?
The current Governor General, His Excellency David Hurley, when he was Chief of Defence Force, him and Mrs. Hurley were in London. The British military, they ran a play called The Two Worlds of Charlie F, which is kind of a musical about being wounded, being in their return to service and return back into society. They're actually singing and dancing, and then the Governor General, David Hurley, when he came back, he's like, let's do an Australian version, but Australian diggers aren't going to sing and dance. So they put the call out for people to be involved in a play about being injured in service and things. So I put my name forward to help write the script and help with the active motivation, that kind of stuff behind the scenes. I was like, I'm not going to be an actor. We had like an actors training camp in Sydney at Sydney Theatre Company. And we're talking with the scriptwriter and telling the scriptwriter our parts of our stories. And then Next thing you know, they go, okay, Gary, this is your character. You're doing this on stage. I was like, am I? Okay. See how this goes. We then did a tour around the country. We started in Sydney, then bounced around to like Wollongong, Brisbane, Townsville, Darwin, Canberra, Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth.
How did you find it going from boots on the ground in Timor and Afghanistan and being a commando to now being on stage?
Like the stage fright, my first case of stage fright, I was there on my barrier with the colleague and I'm like, fuck, did you hear those people? Like there was 900 people in the Sydney theatre. That's 900 sets of people ready to judge us. Like the whole freaking out, starting to sweat, like, oh my God. I think it's we've done this enough times before, in training and rehearsals. You know what we've got to do, let's just get it done. Go back to military training is just, you know the job. You've trained for the job, just do the job. Turn your brain off, stop thinking about it and just do what you have to do. I just powered on. Except the Canberra show, because I knew one of the widows from my crash was in the audience. And I was like, I owe it to her to do the best I can. And my scene, with the biggest scene, was the final scene I played. I had to recite the opening stanza from Homer's Odyssey. As I'm saying it, the lines here written on the wall behind me. I flipped a couple of the lines back to front. Then we walk off, I'm like, of all times to mess up, I messed up then. Hearing people crying, at my scene, I'm not that bad of an actor, am I?
One line.
It's because my memory is pretty poor. And I'm trying to do a very somber scene and show that I'm quite sad. But the fact I'm remembering these lines, I'm half happy with myself for remembering the line. I'm I got it right. Wait, I'm sad. Pretend to be sad. Be sad.
Definitely accomplished a lot. And you're also an ambassador for Soldier On. You've shared your story a lot over the years. What's the main thing that you want listeners of this podcast to take away from hearing your story today?
Just the mindset. If you have the right mindset, anything can be overcome.
Well, Gary, you're an inspiration. Incredible story, incredible recovery, and it's an honor to speak with you. I'm Thomas Kaye, and you've been listening to Life on the Line.
More of that music in just a moment. Gary originally reached out to us asking that we interview his wife, Renee, but we've heard so much about the 21 June 2010 helicopter crash that we had to interview Gary as well. We are grateful to him for coming on the show. And join us this Friday for Renee Wilson's heartfelt conversation with Thomas Kaye.
I thought to myself, what am I going to do if they say we need to make a decision about whether we keep the machines on?
For other perspectives on this helicopter crash, be sure to listen to a former operator of the 2nd Commando Regiment in number 92, Dean Parkinson, Volume 2.
We got hit from 4 sides all at once, deafening.
And also in Season 4, number 54, H, Volume 5.
But the suffering and the extent of injuries that the remainder of the boys had that lived in that crash, it was just fucking horrific.
And you'll hear a detailed description about the Battle of Schwali Kot in that interview with Dean as well. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Life on the Line Podcast and on Twitter at LOTL Pod. Our website is www.lifeonthelinepodcast.com and our email address is podcast@lifeonthelinepodcast.com. And follow Gary Wilson on social media by looking up Bear Coaching, spelled B-A-R-E. Life on the Line is brought to you by Thistle Productions. Artwork by Big Cat Design. Theme music by Dan Van Werkhoven. Closing music, It's All Right by The Externals, an Aussie band and the world's only Special Forces original rock band. Thanks for listening, unless we forget.
It's all